The big element is that huge amount of hops that comes across.
I think the widget failed. There's some really deep ruby maltiness in there too. Welcome back to Beer Brackets, everybody. This is a very special occasion. There are two Irish beers that we have always wanted to review, but because Alessandro can't get this one in the States, I can't get that one in Canada, our beer paths never crossed. Finally, buddy, we're finding a way, and we're doing it through this newfound format that we've tried once, the double review. But we are reviewing both these awesome beers, my friend, starting with the Guinness Foreign Extra Stout and also Kilkenny Irish Cream Ale. Tell us a little bit about this Foreign Extra Stout for anybody who might be wondering, like, I know Guinness Draft, I've heard of the Extra Stout maybe. What's the Foreign Extra Stout?
Oh, I would love to, my friend. So possibly one of the oldest Guinness recipes known and that is currently being brewed, is still being brewed. Because according to legend and from our chats with the Guinness archivist that we had like a few years back, Foreign Extra Stout goes... Exactly. It goes all the way back to Arthur Guinness himself when the recipe was brewed under a slightly different name, but for the West Indies, which is roughly where I am now. Like, not exactly, but that was one why that beer was brewed.
Are you in the West Indies? That's interesting. Yeah. I guess,
it's technically roughly, the Caribbeans. Roughly. Yeah, Caribbeans. Right. Roughly is
close enough.
Closely, but
you can hop on a beer boat and be there relatively quickly.
Exactly. I could. The interesting thing about this beer is that compared to the regular Guinness that is brewed, like back then we're talking about, this was a beer that was brewed with additional hops and with a slightly higher alcohol percentage. And this was done to allow for a longer travel that it was needed to go from the brewery in Dublin all the way to the West Indies.
Right.
Recipe has been kept and obviously changed a little bit throughout the centuries, but it's still brewed today, and it takes the name of the Foreign Extra Stout, 7.5%. It has this very nice yellow label that is recognizable as is here in the States. I know in different countries it might have a slightly different format and label, but this is how it looks here in the States. It is one of my personal favorites. So I'm excited to actually try it for the first time in a review setting.
And we actually did try that one before. You're right, multiple episodes. We tried it together in person on Beer Brackets of the Month, episode 10. If you are curious, you can go watch that clip of that episode to see what we both thought about it, having it together face to face, which is a very rare beer occasion for Alessandro and I. But that is so epic. I'm so excited to get to feature the Guinness Foreign Extra Stout. And man, this is another fantastic Irish beer that I cannot wait to feature on the channel as well. We've already talked about it in our top Irish beers for St. Patrick's Day episode. I featured Kilkenny, but in a full review setting, this is the first time. What's really interesting about Kilkenny, it was originally brewed at the St. Francis Abbey in Kilkenny, Ireland. What eventually became Kilkenny, we all know the beer Smithwick's. We had a fantastic review of Smithwick's that we featured last year at St. Patrick's Day. Kilkenny was actually brewed as a slightly stronger version of Smithwick's that would be exported to Europe and Canada, which is pretty amazing. So it is actually the base recipe of Smithwick's, according to beer legend, just slightly stronger with a slight tweak to the recipe. And they changed the name to Kilkenny because they thought that Smithwick's, and we've had this conversation, but it's not Smithwick's.
Smithwick's?
As we know. It is Smithwick's. They thought that Smithwick's might be a little bit too hard for us lowly North Americans to pronounce. And so they thought Kilkenny would be a little bit easier. So it was named Kilkenny, just to basically separate it from the beer that was Smithwick's and create something a little bit new, which is pretty amazing. And to this day now, there's obviously the draft version. I've never seen the bottled non-nitrogenated version. I've seen pictures of it online. I don't know if that exists anymore, to be honest with you. All I've ever seen is this current draft version with the nitro widget coming in at a very strong 4.3, extremely strong 4.3% ABV. It is now, of course, no longer brewed at that St. Francis Abbey that I mentioned in Kilkenny. It is brewed by Diageo at the Guinness Brewery there in Dublin, St. James Gate. The celebration started. Let's do it, man.
Let's do it. Oh, I gotta grab the bottle opener. Lost it here in the library.
You've lost it in the beer library, yeah. Check one of those shelves in the back there.
This new set.
What a beautiful...
Woo-hoo.
Just being a nitrogenated beer, it's got that same surge effect that you do get from a Guinness. I think I might have poured it a little bit too quick. I'm getting a little bit of a bubbly head there, but... All right, my friend, whenever you are ready, I will let you start. Aroma cheers.
Aroma cheers to you, my friend. How to describe this? Like, it's way stronger and way more pungent than regular Guinness. So if anybody's watching, has never tried it and kind of likes Guinness and is thinking, oh, it might be along the lines, it's different. It's quite different. So don't expect that same experience at all. Like, it's more intense. It has those classic roasted characters. The big element is that huge amount of hops that comes across. I find this incredibly enjoyable because it's rare to find a beer that can showcase like a very deep and rich roasted character all the way down to almost coffee notes and chocolate, but also a luscious amount of hops. So this combination to me is very, very unique. Focusing on it, I can really see that greatness in that sense. So I'm going to start high here, my friend. I'm going to start with the 3 because I think it really deserves it. I'm excited to hear what you think about the Kilkenny. Like, what's your opinion
buddy? This
on
is
the
a beer
aroma?
bracket first. I think the widget failed because this beer is completely flat. It doesn't have like the foamy head and the surge that Kilkenny normally has. So here's what I'm going to do. It's not fair to review this beer if it's not properly poured out, and it's not the proper version of Kilkenny. So I'm going to put this aside. This will be drank. I'm going to open a second one, and we're going to start this over, and I'm going to pour out another one because this isn't fair. I need to do Kilkenny justice because this is definitely not the Kilkenny that I know. This is a very flat version with no head. Okay, that sounds a lot better than it did the first time. There we go.
Oh, I can hear it from here. Yes. You can hear it from the pour.
Yeah, okay, this is so much better. All right, there it is. Perfect. Look at that. Okay. That is the Kilkenny surge right there.
Beer crisis averted.
Same thing with Smithwick's. This beer is not about the aroma. Unlike, let's say, like a Guinness draft, this is not something that you're going to be going in for and looking for a big roasty aroma out of. Smithwick's as well as Kilkenny are much more easy drinking. I mean, obviously, this is a red ale. Well, it's a cream ale, but its base, you can see it's a very sort of like red amber ale. It's very smooth, very subtle in its care. Oh, look at that head. Oh, my God, man. Like, that is just creamy.
Look at that, man.
Goodness right there. It's very, very faint.
Looks like an Irish coffee almost.
It does, right? It's kind of crazy. The aroma, there's not much there. You get a little bit of like standard aromas that you would associate maybe with like other Irish red ale. So some hops, some really sort of like dark roasted malts. Aside from that, there really isn't too much on this. It's nice. It's inviting, but the aroma's muted. I'm actually going to go 1.5, not because I'm not enjoying it. It's just subtle. That's by design, but still subtle. So I can't bump it too high. Let's take a big sip and let's see what we think. Oh, God, this beer's beautiful. I'm so happy I repoured this. Oh, so good. Okay, what do you think? Tell us about the Foreign Extra.
I was still savoring here. It's quite special, my friend. Like, it starts with this roasted character that is rosy, tending to coffee note that just evolves and sits there in this very unique edge of balance between those elements. You start feeling this bitterness, and the bitterness like starts as a bitterness coming from the coffee, almost like from an espresso, right? Like that we mentioned that like on the extra stout. But then it evolves and it turns into the bitterness coming from the hops, very herbal and floral notes to it.
Oh wow.
Very complex and unique. If you're looking for something that is more mild, that might shock you a little bit. But sticking with the 3-on-3, my friend, like I really like that.
Again, characteristics, very faint. Really, really nice slight hop flavor there. Actually, the hops are probably a little bit more present than any kind of malt flavor on this. But there definitely is a nice little crackery breadiness to it. But very balanced, but delicious. This is meant to be drinkable just with that Irish red ale flair to it. A little bit hard to describe if you've never had it, more than the fact that it's just like very, very floral hops, combined with a very crackery breadiness. I'm going to go with a 2 on 3 on the taste for this one. I'm going to up the score a little bit. Again, if this was anything stronger, or if this was anything like a little bit more full of character, then it would score a little bit higher. But again, by design, it is a very, very easy drinking, very subtle beer. So that's going to affect the scores a little bit. But buddy, we're getting to the mouthfeel beer bracket tradition. We got to do a little bit of a mouthfeel refresher.
Time.
Look at, what a shame. It always sucks when a widget fails.
Kudos to you, my friend, to realizing that quickly and having a plan B in place.
Yes.
As best as a beer drinker can possibly
Thank
be.
you, sir.
Be prepared.
I was not going to review a flat Kilkenny and not do it justice.
Ooh. That's just interesting. Bubbles, fine, clean. They just like immediately burst on your tongue the moment you take a sip. It's not strong, but you can tell that it's higher ABV beer. Like,
right. There's there's a presence on the mouthfeel.
There's a presence. I think it's extremely well done. I think that it has all the elements in place. It lands at a 2.5 because...
Oh, your perfect beer streak is broken.
Because it is broken. I know. And I hate to do this. There's a very ever so slightly towards the end oiliness, stickiness, which I think comes from the fact that it has very strong malt presence to counteract that hop presence. This is a beer that is not obviously about the hops. It's more about the malt. It has a bit of that presence that lingers. What do you think about the Kilkenny? What's the mouthfeel?
Oh, like? Dude. I mean, this beer is all about the mouthfeel. Look at this. Look at this beautiful, creamy, foamy beer heaven that I have in this glass over here. The type of foam that you get on this type of beer as opposed to something on a stout, it's not as creamy. It's a little bit more carbonated in like the froth in the head itself. So there's some bubbles that explode in there as well when you take a sip, but still you get that thick creaminess. It's really, really unique. If you've never had a nitrogen infused cream ale, definitely recommend it. It is a 3 on 3 mouthfeel. Absolutely. Now the finish, buddy. What do you think?
My friend, that's where all the magic happens.
All of it.
Man, this beer is good. You know, you might like it or not, but like in general, everything that Guinness makes has a certain consistency.
Oh yeah, of course.
You know, everything they produce, like it might not be to your liking, but there is a certain consistency in the way that they place the elements, a certain balance. I think the finish of this beer is a perfect example of that, because you have this journey that the beer takes you through, and then you get in the finish and you think, okay, it's done, it's over. It's not. It actually is everything again there, and you taste it, but in a slightly different way. It's almost like you're looking at it from a different angle. I always say like in the distance a little bit, right? So it just like takes you in this journey without being overpowering. And that's beautifully done. So three on the finish, my friend. I love this thing.
Wow.
How is the Kilkenny?
I love the finish of this beer. Again, it's very subtle, really beautiful hoppiness, some really deep ruby maltiness in there too. A little bit of cream. You know, it might be in my imagination because, you know, they say cream ale, of course, like it's nitrogen infused. It has that creamy body. But the creaminess almost factors into the finish. And it must, because, you know, it sticks around. It coats your palate with this creamy deliciousness. So it transports the finish, my friend, in a beautiful, majestic way that just keeps it rolling and keeps it going, like the beautiful rolling Irish hills, the beautiful rolling Irish countryside, just rolling off into the beer distance.
In the distance.
I'm going to go with a 2. I love what's there. Again, subtle, so I can't go too high. It's very, very weak in its characteristics of a beer, but what's there is top notch. So 2 for the finish, buddy. Now, as an overall beer experience for the Guinness Foreign Extra Stout, what do you think?
One last beer reading here so that people understand. Obviously, I like Guinness as a brewery in general, so that's an intangible. The first time I tried, I was a bit shocked because it was like, wow, it took me a moment to unpack it. The first beer I had, it was like, oh, okay, this is a lot. You try it a second time and you start understanding where the flavors are and how they are. That to me has always been like a thing with this beer in particular. It's a beer that you don't necessarily want as a, you know, it's not a session beer. It's a beer that you will have like one And it almost like it's a dessert. It's a treat that you have after a very nice dinner. For me, like I'm not a huge dessert person, so I'd rather have like a beer dessert than an actual dessert. For that and for what a nice experience it has, it's going to stay with the 3, my friend, for me. So
I love a good old-fashioned dessert beer, and I love that that's your go-to dessert beer. That's just a beautiful thing, my friend. This beer is very sort of polarizing for me, and as is Smithwick's, because I love everything that's there, but it's just so faint. So it's hard. It's hard to justify as an accurate beer barometer giving it a very high score just for that reason when it stands next to beers that accomplish so much more with complex flavors. It's hard to bump this up too high. So I have to be careful, and that's why I gave it a 1.5, and I've been hovering around 2. Gave it a 3 for the mouthfeel. I'm going to stick with a 2. It's masterfully done. Anybody could drink this, whether you're a beer fan or not, and fully enjoy it. It's not going to overwhelm you with flavors. The finish is beautiful and crisp. The mouthfeel is incredible. It's a joy to drink this beer. If I'm going to be a legitimate, accurate beer barometer, put it up against other beers that we've had and rated, I think a 2 is the perfect place for Kilkenny Irish Cream Ale. Calculating our final scores for Alessandro, came out to a 4.83 on 5 for Guinness Foreign Extra Stout, which is an outstanding beer in our beer rating categories. And for myself, for Kilkenny Irish Cream Ale, it came out to a 3.5 on 5, which is a great beer. Dude, this has been so much fun finally getting to feature these beers on the channel. Everybody, let us know down below, what do you think of these 2 beers if you've been able to have them? What are some of your favorite Irish beers to have this time of year? And whatever you do, click that beer bell. That little beer bell is going to tell you when we're having a beer in the pub. And so you can come along and join us. Or else YouTube's not going to let you know. It's going to hide the pub from you. It's going to act like a doormat, keeping you out of the pub.
And no matter what, don't forget to close your beer brackets.